everybody dies. So so that's kind of, to people, like they immediately say, oh, that's proof we have to die because everybody dies. Well, it's really not proof that we have to die. It's just that we do. It's just like we never had automobiles, right? Until we had them, okay? And or did we fly to the moon until we did? But so those concepts were proven after we created them. So, but that's where people get stuck. Also, that's one of the key things, I think. And so that program goes for, like I said, for thousands of years. So they're indoctrinated. They're just indoctrinated with it, and they're many times, most of the time, just really great people, and sometimes they're really even intelligent people. But that program is so strong. So my job, one of my jobs, and what I do is I try to wake them up to that there's another life to live, okay? That another way of thinking, and there is that immortal. I think there's that immortal potential in everybody. You might even I call it now an immortal lineage. We're born into a world with the lineage of death, okay? The program of death. But we have an opportunity to wake up to that innate desire or seed of life that's in us, okay? And obviously, people, because they've lived so long in that program, it's difficult for them to see that or to experience that. But it is in you. Why, if it wasn't, why has everybody through history, one level or another, wanted to create immortality? Even if it was some imaginary immortality. Everyone wants to live, okay? It's almost like a primal scream of life in our bodies. So that's what I'm talking about. It's a seed of life. And if we will wake up to that in our bodies, it will totally change the program. Because that's what I've experienced myself. Waking up to that seed. I think I had that early experience I did as a kid because I had that in me, and we all do, Some people have it more suppressed than others, obviously. But like for us, for example, it's pretty much to the surface because we're talking this right now, right? but yeah, I think the seed of life is in us, and it's a primal scream that's always been there for life. And if people, I move now to try to move. I've been doing this, and it's been very effective to wake people up to that. No matter how you resist it now, I tell them, no matter what you think, this is in you, okay? And it's important you get in touch with it. Do you really, if you can have strength and vitality for unlimited amounts of time, would you want that? Okay, most everybody will say yes, but they still don't think it's possible, but they'll say yes to that. So then I'll say, okay, since you feel that in your body, why not begin to entertain that idea that and begin to get in touch with that seed of life that's already in you, and then begin to see how you feel with that and open yourself up to that. And many times that causes people to, in my experience lately, to actually begin to reflect on themselves and begin to get in touch more with that cry on them to live, to be alive.
Today's guest, James Strole, is one of the pioneers in the longevity space. He is a leading anti-death activist and community builder. He's the co-founder and director of People Unlimited, and he is the co-founder and director of the Coalition for Radical Life Extension, an organization that puts on the largest convention for longevity enthusiasts in the world. Mr. Strole, welcome to Levity.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I'm happy to be on the show with you.
Thank you. We are delighted to have you. So I'm sorry I did not make the RAADfest that wrapped up a couple of weeks ago. So for the listeners, can you give us an idea of what the RAADfest is?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, well, I was hoping you'd make it, but I'm trying still to forgive you for not being there, but you have a chance next year too, so. So, I appreciate all the work you're doing also over in Europe. And where's your location right now? Where are you exactly located yourself?
I'm in Malmö, and Peter is in Stockholm.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, well, thank you for asking about RAADfest. It is the largest event of its kind in the world that focuses on age reversal. And we started it in, if you want to know a little bit of the history, I think you're asking me, we started it, the idea in 2014. And we wanted to do something to galvanize the longevity community, bring them together, as you know, and that there's a lot of movement now for longevity and super longevity in the world, but everybody's kind of doing their own thing for the most part. And we all know the power of collective movement. And so we thought, oh, we want to bring all of us together as much as possible, and create a better I'll say collaboration together and work together more to actually get this great message out to the world. Let's work collectively. We still are moving exponentially for that continuously. Um, and but in 2014, we thought, okay, I contacted a lot of the scientists and doctors and wanted their opinions on it and so forth. And many of them would say, oh, please create something that's not just the same old, science event. We get kind of bored in our own events sometimes. So, so we went to the drawing board, our team here, and we said, well, okay, why don't we create like a Woodstock for radical life extension, something really different, something fun, festive with music, and that the public could enjoy, and would also inspire more of a immersive experience for everybody, the real life experience. So we did that, and our first event was 2016, and was just a big hit. What was funny though is in the beginning of the event, when there was all this music and clapping for the scientists, et cetera, that we kind of generated, a lot of the people were like, "Oh, what is this? This is so different." And but the experiment worked good. The idea worked good because what it did is create that connection between the attendees and the scientists and the doctors, that they were able to not only have a better understanding and connectiveness with each other, but there was more support came out of it, more collaborations with the scientists, more support from the attendees who wanted to invest in businesses and longevity businesses. So, so we were really happy for that. And surprisingly enough, we had over 1,000 people there that first event. And so we were really thrilled, and we were growing continuously until the pandemic. And then the pandemic set us back. But we didn't stop. We had two online events. We had to produce them. We actually traveled from Scottsdale to Denver to produce them because there was a great production team there that was able to produce something more like a TV experience. So, so we did that. Now we're back though live. We just had our last event this year in Anaheim at the Hyatt Regency. This next year, for 2025, we're moving to Vegas, and it's going to be our 10th anniversary. So we're very excited. We have a lot of great things happening that we'll be announcing soon. Okay, collaborations. Since this last RAADfest in Anaheim, we had just a tremendous, it was such a powerful experience for everybody, not only the top science in the world for super longevity, but also the spirit of the energy was so good. We call it the spirit of immortality, was just like flowing with everybody. And you experienced a lot of joy. It was palatable in the air, and excitement of what was being done. So out of that came a lot of responses to people to want to collaborate for the RAADfest in Vegas that's coming up in July 11th through the 13th. I think I have that date right now. We just changed it, but we will be announcing that for sure. Yeah, so we're really thrilled because we're going to be announcing a lot of new collaborations that are going to be happening for that, and we're probably going to at least increase our attendance by 40% at least. So yeah, it's been a really exciting ride, a lot of challenges, but hey, we're moving forward.
So we are talking about perhaps several thousands of longevity enthusiasts.
Well, right now, yes, yes, it could be, because the different collaborations that we're bringing to the table are going to create more exposure to what we're doing worldwide, and it's also the challenge, as you probably have been in advance. The challenge is always finding the right resort or hotel space. You have to sign for a certain amount, a certain time, and you have to pay for it. So if you go over that amount, it's hard sometimes to extend the room size, etc. But it's very possible that we could be getting a few thousand, wanting to come there. But we may not be able to contain that many at this time.
So how many days is the event?
It'll start on a Friday night and all day Saturday and Sunday. So it's going to be this time a 3-day event.
And you have different scenes, and you have lectures, but you have also performances and.
Yeah, lectures, performances. I mean, we all know that music, for example, helps us learn better. So when you have those breaks with music and sound, people relax more. They're able to simulate things a little bit better. That's one of the reasons we've done the musical artistic side. Another reason, we just wanted to create more inspiration and joy in the room, But yes, there'll be the top speakers in the world on unlimited lifespans. And also this year, we're going to also be doing, we did last year too, worked out really good. We'll be doing special breakouts where people can get more immersed in the conversation with these doctors and scientists. And so people know what's great. Like a lot of events, you don't get to mingle as much with the science and doctors. Well, we set the atmosphere where everybody can come together and are together and are able to meet the speakers and the scientists, ask them personal questions if they want. So it's a very immersive experience.
It sounds unmissable, right, Peter?
Yeah, it would be. It would be fun to go there. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'd love to have you both there next year. And
thank you. So to step back a bit in time, what led up to this organization? How did you start getting involved in longevity and radical life extension?
Well, that goes back some time ago. And I was very grateful, actually. It was a difficult experience, but I was very grateful to have this experience because it led me to where I am today. And that is that when I was 11 years old, my grandmother died. And it's the first time I experienced losing somebody that I was really close to. And, as a child, we don't understand death. We're not even, necessarily kind of insulated from it when we were first, out of the womb and growing up. And but that was my first experience. And eventually we all have an experience of losing somebody that we love and care for. So it was traumatic for me because I was very close to her. And I asked my mother, I said, I felt something was wrong with I was seeing somebody who was so vibrant and alive, like my grandmother was, eventually deteriorate and just lose everything she was, and it was because she was just a remarkable person that I had great communication with, et cetera. So when she died, I asked my mother, I said, well, when do I get to see, grandmother again? Because at that time I grew up in a Christian home and so forth. And my mother said, well, when you die and go to heaven. And I thought, as a kid, that doesn't feel really great, right? You don't understand that I have to die to go see my great grandmother. And so I said to her, immediately it popped out of my mouth. I said, well, why can't we have heaven here on earth? Why can't we create heaven and earth and not have to die? And so she was kind of taken back by that, but she said, but she was very progressive herself. So she said to me, well, I don't know the answer to that, but you should pursue that. So that was in my heart, you might say. I had that in me, Of course, I did all the other things kids do, of course. But when I was in school, I would write themes about this. My mother was a real seeker, so she would take me to see or hear different speakers that would come in town all the time, even when I was young like that. So I had exposure to a lot of different thoughts and ideas. And eventually she introduced me to my partner, Bernadine Brown, and her partner. In 1968, I was 18 years old, and she introduced me to them because they were talking about the possibility, the potential to live forever.
Yeah, I was thinking, James, that you must have. It's not that usual to find people who have been in this space for such a long time that you have been. And I'm thinking, like 1968, the longevity movement, if there was one, was completely different to what it is now. The only name that comes to mind for me is Roy Walford. I'm sure you know about
Yes.
Roy Walford.
Yes.
So, can you? What was the optimism and feeling back then about trying to get to solve aging and have unlimited lifespans?
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. And when I first heard, like I said, my partners in '68, I was still in. I was finishing college. I was in college. Just started college actually, and so I didn't start working with them until 1972. But when we started working together, there was no one talking about longevity really. Okay, and we were out there talking about immortality. And so you can imagine, but pretty amazingly enough, we had a newsletter that we sent out all the time through the United States. Okay. And amazingly enough, we got some pretty tremendous response from people, enough that we began to do a tour through the United States together and speaking on this. But again, no one was speaking even on longevity at that time. I mean, I also remember, I don't know if you remember Dr. Joshua Ledenberg, who was a Nobel Prize winner, geneticist. So it was around late 70s, I think it was. What was kind of great that happened was that, was great that happened, that he appeared here in Phoenix to Arizona to do a talk, and we couldn't get into the talk. It was for scientists only. But the next day in the paper, he made the statement, he's a Nobel Prize winner, he made the statement that immortality is possible. And that was back in the late '70s, early '80s, and so that was like a hallelujah moment for us, right? Just to get some authenticity or validity for what we're saying, but still, the program, as you know, especially then, now it's changing all the time, was so deeply ingrained in the death program that it was very hard for people to conceive immortality, or longevity, even much less immortality. So, but we had some great responses, amazingly enough, during that time going around. At the same time that we were touring the United States, eventually being on TV shows, etc. Bill Falloon, head of Life Extension Foundation, was appearing on these shows too. Sometimes we would cross paths. He'd be talking about longevity and promoting Life Extension Foundation, and talking about cryonics, and we would come in there and be talking about immortality. Sometimes the same show, but just the next segment. So it was a very pioneering day at times, right? And of course, today I'm very grateful that now, with all the great new science coming out on, super longevity and all the data now we have to validate that we can live forever. And just a matter of time where we create these innovations that are necessary. Now it's a wonderful period for me, and that you hear all this coming forth now, and to have so much support that's happening.
So this was in the '70s, and you say you traveled around. Am I supposed to picture like a bus with you, or what's the image here?
We had a big, actually it was a big 4-door, huge Buick. All right, that we would put the three of us to travel in, and then we put the kids in there, and many times we pull a little trailer behind us to help carry things we needed, and sometimes people from the area that we would go to and speak, sometimes they'd follow us to different cities sometimes, so we did like a month and a half tour, like 6-week tour of the United States. And from that we began to build more of a community of people here in Scottsdale and throughout the United States. And there was a lot of people who really embraced the idea. But still, it was in its infant stages.
Was Scottsdale the center for this?
Now we have the center. The center we built in 1995, and the name was changed from the Eternal Flame to People Unlimited. And now, so we have a center now, but we didn't have one then. We just would meet. In the beginning, it was meeting in people's homes. Then we began to meet in hotels, etc.
Can I ask you, what did you pin your hopes on at that point in time, like in the 70s? I guess there was all this talking about calorie restriction, for example. Was there anything else at that point that you really thought that was going to solve the problem of aging?
Well, so we felt like I do now. We felt very, I'll say, inspirational about it. We felt very certain confidence, and still did that. What we were speaking about was going to come to fruition, in the sense that there'd be more and more science coming. We felt like and still do, by having that mindset, getting out of that death program was a big thing for us at the time, because there was no science. We felt we needed to change our mindset around aging and death. And I'm so happy that we had that experience, because I think it's enabled me personally to be able to have the strength and resilience to keep moving and what I really feel passionate about, creating a world without aging and death. But it was, like I said, there wasn't any science, but we had the feeling that it would come, in other words. And we were doing many, many things. At that time, we didn't know about intermittent fasting, but we did know about cleansing, just regular fasting. We fasted a lot. We did ate as organic as we could, all those things that did. I don't know if you ever heard of rebirthing by Leonard Orr. It's the idea. This is something we adopted way back then, because this concept was about taking you through the birth channel, through what he called rebirthing, to reborn you into a more of an immortal consciousness. So we did things like that. We did everything we could find, to stay healthier and stay alive until the new world would be more. The future would reach us. The future would bring the future to us, and so this is what's happened.
So you must have been then a very small counterculture. Is that how you saw yourself?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We were these outliers, and counterculture is a good word for it. Everybody that got involved through this time, it's been they were able to live a life that was more free from the tyranny of death. So it was also very rewarding to see people, come more alive during that time. And yes, but we were definitely outliers.
The concept of death program, did you have that formulated back then in the 70s as well?
Oh, yes, 100%. Yes, we were very clear. We were very clear that we were born into a death program, and that program has run its course for thousands of years, and we felt like there had to be some type of, and which I'm very clear on today, almost like a reborn experience to get you out of that program, and so that's what we focused on a lot during that time.
A lot of people, they have that experience. A grandparent dies when they are 11, perhaps, but then it's almost like they fall asleep again, and then they just accept.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we've learned, right? We've been programmed to make death more palatable, to make it acceptable, and so we find ways to do that, and then we, like you say, we go back to sleep.
Since we're talking about definitions here, so the death program is this idea that you are accepting death. It's something that you should find meaning in, and so on. Then, and I think we all three agree that that's absurd. But then you also mentioned superlongevity. That's not a term that I'm too familiar with. Are you talking about like radical life extension here? Is that the same?
Yes. Thing? It's just another word for radical life extension. As you know, I think there's a difference between longevity and superlongevity or radical life extension. Some people, confuse that still. Longevity basically is about living as long as you can, as healthy as you can, and then dying still. They don't necessarily embrace unlimited lifespans. Sometimes they do. Sometimes the base of good health, obviously, and wellness is very important. Like Ray Kurzweil says all the time, live long enough to live forever. So we need that good wellness to keep going, and then the growth exponentially of this new longevity protocols we're going to bring to draw to ourselves. But like you're saying, the whole structure, like super longevity is, as we know, is living past that barrier that we have, which is about 125, that we can live biologically without innovations. That's been proven to this point. We still don't know how long the body can live as you actually become, I'll say, use the term, more alive all the time. But we do know that with innovations, et cetera, we can keep extending our life. And that's what super longevity is about, is breaking that death barrier. Is that clear? Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the limit though is 122 as far as we know. I mean, Sean Coleman.
So right around that. It's 122 that anybody's lived. A lot of scientists will say, right now the capacity is like 125. But no one's lived at 125 yet, as far as we got documented yet. But the physiological patterns there. In other words, we're living in a world that's so toxic, right? It defeats really the actual innate ability or natural ability for the body to really regenerate. So in one sense, we don't really know, because of our environment, how long we can live without an innovation. But the theory is 125, I guess.
So during the 70s, did the message spread well? Did people become engaged? What happened?
Yes. Amazingly enough, we had a lot of people get engaged, and we got invitations all over the United States to speak. Eventually, that moved into doing TV shows and radio shows, and then we got an invitation after that to travel in the I think it was the mid '80s. We got invitations to go overseas to speak to some. For the first speaking engagement was in England. We were invited over there to speak to Leonard Orr, who I mentioned, his group over there. He wanted us to come over there and speak to all the rebirthing group. He had almost 1 million followers, this guy. And they were all into the idea that rebirthing could help bring you to bring forth a manifestation of immortality, or at least the consciousness of it. So we, but he said a lot of his people were still, in simple terms, using rebirthing kind of like digressive therapy. So he said he'd like us to come over there and speak to them about immortality. So that's what we did. And we got a great response from them. And we traveled all over England speaking. We came back to the United States and did an event here in the United States back then. That was in the 80s. And a big event at a hotel, had over 1,000 people show up for it from all over the world at that time, because they spread the news that we were, once we went to England, there was other people in England that were in other countries. And so they started coming to this event. So that was a huge leap in that context of people getting involved.
I'm not familiar with rebirthing. What does that consist in?
Well, rebirthing is a breathing technique, okay? And by breathing a certain particular way, that it takes people into a kind of rebirth experience. They go back into their experience they had, and the idea is to take the trauma out of birth, that the birthing that most people experience, so they can digress into that that experience. Almost, it's a pretty amazing feeling. You have to have somebody working with you on that. They call them a rebirther that works with you, and they get you to breathe a certain way, and it's almost like you do feel like you're coming out of the womb again, and you get the whole, they call it, your body kind of curls up from this breathing, and it's quite an experience actually. But that's the idea of it, to take you back to that experience and then bring you out, and help remove that birth trauma.
And so they wanted you to add your message to this. Yes,
because a lot of the people who were doing this therapy weren't really receiving the idea of what he really wanted the result to be. That's immortality. They were using it more like a digressive therapy to maybe help them through traumas they were in, and he wanted them to have that immortal experience. So that's why he asked us to come over and speak to them.
Has that movement survived?
The rebirthing? Yes. Yeah, the rebirthing is still going on in the world. Yeah. Like any, Leonard Orr, the founder, he died a couple of years ago. But there's, so there's other people have kind of taken that over. I haven't actually talked to any of them. These movements like that, when the leader dies, sometimes it morphs into something totally different. So I don't know.
Chronologically, what was the next step in your evolution here? So
we were going around, moving through the United States, and then we got overseas, like I said. And then in 1995, we were up until 1995. We just kept moving, speaking on immortality, having events all over the world, having big events here. And then 1995, we formed what's now called People Unlimited. My partner Bernadine Brown and I, because we wanted more of a serious, I'll say, dedicated group of people to not only that were just more, I'll say, serious about helping bring about the whole unlimited lifespan, for themselves and for the world. So we formed People Unlimited, and that's how we're functioning now, and it's been really great. We've also wanted to embrace this because more science is coming out. We wanted to get more involved in the science, which we've done now. And so now People Unlimited, the company we have here now in Arizona, in Scottsdale, Arizona, is very dedicated now to the inspiration and the education of people for superlongevity. That's our focus. So we have doctors and scientists come in all the time here and speak on the subject. We have a big weekend event coming in this weekend. In fact, you both are welcome to join any of it if you want to. We can send you a link for it. It's the entire weekend if you want to plug into it for a short period of time, whatever works for you, just to see what we do. But so we talk about in these events everything from the inspiration of unlimited lifespans, meaning the changing the mindset around that death program, to all the science and the best modalities to do now. Everything from exosomes to stem cells now, to senolytics, to gene therapies, to plasma exchange, young plasma exchange, therapeutic plasma exchange, and everything else you can do right now to bring about better health and stay alive. Like Bell Falloon, Life Extension Foundation says now, he says there's enough information right now in the world for health that no one has to die.
No, I was just going to say, it seems like you are taking I don't know if this is the right word, but a kind of holistic approach. So it's not just the science, but you're looking at the big picture. Yes, and not to be critical of anybody, but I think we miss something when we just focus on one or the other. Okay, I think it's important to integrate them, because everything works better when we have a mindset that embraces it. We know that. Okay, we know that from almost everything you do. If you're going to play a sport and you embrace it, you see yourself winning, or if you're going to go to the moon and you see yourself getting there, or if you want to be immortal and you see yourself getting there. Okay, the mindset is so important. But then too often that's dismissed. People just say, "Oh, I just want the science." Well, that is part of the science. It's a science of the mindset. Okay, so we need it all. We need in a sense, you could say we need the body, mind, spirit all to work together as one, and that's what People Unlimited is about.
Can I just ask you, because you were talking about the rebirthing method, and I guess that's considered alternative medicine, and I know that many people in geroscience or who are gerontologists are a little bit afraid of that kind of message, that they're afraid to not be taken seriously and afraid to not get grants to do science and so on. But I guess from what I understand of RAADfest and your work, that you are more open to these alternative methods as well. How do you view this, that some people might take offense and be a little critical about that.
Yeah, understood, and that's a good point. And we are very careful. I mean, obviously, there are charlatans out there just looking to sell something that doesn't work to make money or et cetera, right? So we're very careful about that. We vet that very carefully. And yet there's a lot of great modalities that I think as human beings, we need to look at analytically, and openly to see how it would benefit us, like yoga, for example. A lot of people that do yoga. Well, we know that yoga, science is that data now. It didn't always have that. It could have been considered at one time one of the charlatan factors before it actually moved into the West here, coming from the East. But the reality is, they've got proven data now on how it lowers blood pressure, lowers anxiety, all these different things, right? So I think we have to look at everything from that perspective. There's a lot of things. When I make a choice to do something for myself, whether it's exosomes or stem cells or it's doing yoga, I look at it as, okay, I know how is this going to benefit me? And I'm a person that thinks we need to incorporate everything we can to stay alive. If we exclude something that could help us, why would we do that? But at the same time, I understand that somebody who's looking for, say, funding, I mean, we're still living in a world that is pretty uneducated. And I'll say the holistic method, it's moving into that more and more. You're seeing personalized medicine start out now better all the time, right? More holistic doctors coming out to the surface, realizing that, like Dr. Robert Lofgren, who just wrote the book, All the Lies I Was Told in Medical School. I don't know if you're familiar with that book. He just spoke at really one of the most renowned doctors here in the West, is kind of exposing about the lies he was told. So when you're talking about getting funding for something, I've had no problem getting funding for RAADfest, for now we're going to do a march, a rally in Washington, D.C. for longevity. I mean, there's plenty of people out here that want to fund these causes that are enlightened people. And so I don't worry about, doing something that I think is real for us or incorporating it. I think we should be open to taking on whatever will help us, whatever will benefit us as human beings. So that's the best way I can answer that.
Our mindsets can age us or not age us.
100%. Yes.
I mean, right. if you tell yourself that you're too old to play soccer and you can't do it anymore, and you stop doing it, then you can't anymore. But right. if you just keep playing, you can.
Yeah, enormous amount of people actually, discredit themselves that way, thinking that I'm a certain age now, so I can't do this or I can't do that. But yeah, you're so right. I mean, the mindset is very powerful, and especially when we not only just embrace the idea, but we really embrace it on that holistic level, to where we're realizing that we can, not only think positive about it, but we can also do things like, like I said, I do exosomes, stem cells to keep my body. I don't have an ache in my body. I'm 76 now, and I don't have an ache in my body, And I just did a blood test, recently. My doctor said, he said he wished all of his patients had that good of a blood test, and because I do have, I do a variety of things. Everything, when you have that mindset, like we're talking about, of living, everything works better. Because you don't have this death program that's resisting it.
I think in Sweden, maybe less so in the U.S., but certainly in Sweden, there's a very unpleasant way of reminding each other of what they can and can't do, depending on their age, depending on when they were born. And it's a very arbitrary constraint. And I'm actually personally allergic to those kind of conversations about, now we're at this age, and so now we can't do this anymore, or etc.
Yeah, good for
it's
you.
Like I have a sense of freedom, and it really offends my sense of freedom. I don't want to live in your box, right? I don't know if, Peter, you have... I've lived in the States for many years, right? So it's easy for me to compare. I don't know, Peter, how you feel about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't feel that myself personally, not yet at least. So I haven't really encountered some discrimination because of my age. But I'm 47, so I probably will, right? But I do know that my partner, she's a woman, and so she feels a completely different way, and she's a little bit older than me. She's 50, and she feels that she's being put in a box like that. And I think that's especially problematic for women. So that's really interesting. I know that there's a woman in the US, Katerina Stroponiati, I think her name is, and she has started an investment company to only invest in startups where the founders are over 50 years, which is a great thing, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not so much that people tell me that I can't do this and that. It's more like they seek company in limiting their lives. They want me also to say like them that they can't do that anymore, and etc., or they can't start this new project, or etc., etc. It's a little bit like they want me also to give up on certain ideas I have, and or things I want to do, etc.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct in that's part of it. They want you to be, they want company, you know, and that's why it's so important. I speak about this all the time, to create company that wants you alive, that the like mindsets, you know, it's so important to have people around you that can share your same ideas and thoughts around, especially in this case, really living and being, you know, a good friend of mine who now passed away a short time ago. Um, uh, David Kekich was his name. You might have heard of him, the longevity movement. Beautiful man, but he was in a wheelchair for a long time. He had a bad back injury when he was only about in his 30s. He was like, I think he was in his 70s when he finally did pass away, but he lived a long time in this wheelchair. That was very unexpected. But he was a tremendous super longevity enthusiast. His favorite saying was, "Your best friends are the people who want you alive forever." so, so I love that. So it was all about surrounding yourself, and that's why I created RAADfest and the community here that's international now is because to surround myself and give other people the opportunity to surround themselves with people who feel the same way about living, you know, and it's so powerful when you do that. I mean, I have people coming to me when we're at RAADfest that come for the first time, and they'll say, "Thank you so much for creating this. I thought I was alone out there, and now I've got all these people that feel the same way. I'm so inspired to live. I'm so much more inspired." So it does a lot for all of us. And on top of that, we're able to share information, you know, science information, etc. That, you know, there's things that you know or that I don't know, and vice versa, that we can share with each other and learn faster.
I mean, that's also proven by studies. I mean,
Yes.
you get fat and sick and diabetic if you have fat and sick and diabetic friends.
Yes, 100%. The old saying, you're the accumulation of your five best friends.
So this is what you call. Do you call this the immortality mindset?
Yes, yeah, I've called it the immortality mindset. I've called it, yeah, I think that's the best. I mean, I've called it a few different things, but you know, interesting how we're already defining these things, right? Because so much of it is so new. So, you know, but anyway, I think, yeah, that's the best way to put it.
I mean, there's a new organization, the Vitalists, who also
Yeah,
have this
yeah, the
mind,
vitalists.
mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just met with the vitalists. Are you talking about Lawrence Ion and his organization,
I,
or Adam Griesch?
Adam Grease and
Adam
Nathan
Grace.
Ching. Yeah.
Yeah, Adam Griesch. Yeah, we met with Adam Griesch was at RAADfest this year. Actually, we had a really good talk with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's the one that started vitalism. Yeah, he gave me one of his T-shirts.
It's a nice T-shirt too. The
Yeah,
white one with the colors.
the white
Yeah.
one. Yeah, so the vitalism down it. Yeah,
You know,
he wore that all over RAADfest.
there's another thing I think that would characterize the immortality mindset and that is a certain kind of, you have to be a certain kind of optimist in some sense. it's not really, it's not a pessimistic mindset. So in that sense, it's a
No.
counterculture to today, because there's a lot of pessimism going around.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So much pessimism. I mean, it's hard to listen to sometimes, but yes, I think we're, uh, maybe even the next step. I mean, you definitely have to be an optimist. I've been called the world's biggest optimist. I don't know, but I think I'm meeting more and more people in that level. But we're futurists. We're not afraid to embrace the futurists, and we're outliers. And so I think very few. There's never been any big movements in this world that started with the masses. It's always started with a few people, right? So I'm grateful to be one of those few people for this movement.
It's a humanist, modernist movement, perhaps one could say, if one look at it from a philosophical perspective, that we still excited about the future and progress and all those things, while people who write in the journals and magazines and newspapers are have this kind of postmodern or just really defeatist worldview a lot. Yeah. We're able to see. We're looking through a different lens. So go ahead.
Yeah, can I ask you, because now we're talking about optimism, and we had Mark Hammerleinen on a recent episode, and Mark he's done a lot of things. He used to work at Sense under Aubrey a long time ago, and now he's the co-founder of Longevity Biotech Fellowship, very close to vitalism. And Mark is more of a realist. I wouldn't say he's not optimistic for the future, but he said he was less optimistic now than he was 20 years ago. And he said that, but we still don't have any real aging interventions. There is no medicine that has been approved for aging, he says. But I guess you see this in a different way, right?
Well, I think there's a reality of what he's saying. We still don't have what I would like to see of a medicine or innovation that can remarkably reverse our aging. That's what we're after, or in a truest sense, slow down the aging. But what we really want is age reversal. Okay, but there are some therapies, innovations, gene therapies. They're on the table. They just need funding. That I'd like to see get funded, because I'd like to see the efficacy of them, and have them proven or not. Which now I'm specifically speaking about Dr. Bill Andrews in Sierra Sciences, and he's got a gene therapy that he's been worked on for a long time. Has all the data on it. Scientifically, it proves out in the lab. And he's just waiting for funding. But that's the big issue, okay? And maybe that's what Mark Hammond's pointing out too, is that it's not that some of these therapies aren't available or there, but we can't get the funding for them. Bill Andrews was getting good funding before the financial crisis back in, I think it was 2008, and then he had a hard time getting it afterwards. And this is what most of our scientists in this field are facing, is getting the funding. And that's why I'm moving not only with RAADfest, but to do this rally, which I'd like to invite you both to in the spring of 26. We're going to do a rally at the DC steps in Washington at the Lincoln Memorial and it's going to be a rally for longevity rights, because we want our government here to recognize, first of all, that aging is a disease, okay? And then we want also the several different initiatives that we're working on for that. Best choice medicine, where if you have a terminal patient, it doesn't have to go through FDA approval for that person to use a drug that's, that could save their lives. I mean, what's the purpose anyways? They're going to die anyways. They need to be able to try something. They need to have the right to do that if they want to. So there are several items. But what that will do, why we're doing that, is to also, if the government, we can get them to make some movements, which I feel we can, because more is moving that direction. Then we start getting the funding we need, maybe even government funding to do some of these trials, because that's really so. So in my mind, it's not that the innovation is not available. Okay, or let me put it this way: that we have some therapies that have been proven, but they just need to go into human trials. All right, and that's what's slowing everything up. But I think in the next 2-3 years here, we're going to make a breakthrough on that level. All right, and then we'll be able to start supporting these trials and find out. I mean, I really think this, for example, but it's again a hypothesis. I really think this gene therapy that Dr. Bill Andrews is one of the most exciting things, because it can lengthen the telomeres 100%, for example. And if it did, it could theoretically, well, not just theoretically, scientifically, biologically, reverse the aging to, say, 25, which is that margin that you have of the body maturing at that point. And you could be 90, for example, chronologically, and 25 biologically, if it worked 100%. But even if it just worked 50%, that would be great, right? So that's the frustration, really. That is the reality in this world right now, is we have a lot of scientists working, but they're not getting the funding yet. And we got to get that funding going, that support. And if that support was there for Bill, for example, right now, Bill Andrews and Sierra Sciences, to do his human trials, he could have this drug ready in a pill form. He could have it ready within 2 to 3 years if he got the funding right now to do it. Okay? And that could be available for everybody to take. And there would be there's literally at the point now, right now, there's be zero negative side effects of anything that would be of any consequence for a therapy like this. So as you know, I think Liz Parrish has done a gene therapy. A couple of them, actually, she's done more gene therapies than anybody on the planet. All right, and Bill Andrews actually gave her that gene therapy to take. She took it in a lower dose, though. Okay, his full dose is what we really want to see happen, but doesn't mean you can't do that in increments too, of course. So I'm excited about that. That there are concepts out here ready to go, but so these are created, but we need the support, particularly the financial support.
When you talk about Liz Parrish, is that the gene therapy she received in Colombia, or is it the later one? Because I know that Bill Andrews was involved.
Yes,
from the beginning, right?
Yes, the first one was by Bill Andrews. I think I'm not sure that the second one or third one. She's actually done, I think, 3 now. Okay, so as you know, she's on our board for the Coalition for Radical Life Extension, and she was at RAADfest. She said she did 3 of them. I think she might have also done 1 in Colombia, like you're saying, but all of them have been offshore. That she had. Well, I think I'm not sure if she had to go offshore to take Bill's or not. I think she took it right here, because she can do that. You can do that on yourself. That's why she did it, right? You can't do it on somebody else legally here in the country, but you can do it on yourself.
Okay, yeah. So I guess the telomere theory is probably. It would be great if that would work out so well, but I'm not holding out my hope for telomeres to be the only solution here. But still, I think there is really good science being done also by Maria Blasco in Madrid on telomeres, which was a while since I checked in on that work. But from what I learned a few years back, she hasn't given up hope that telomeres could actually be one of the modalities that we could use in our fight against aging. But yeah, it would be great, but I'm thinking that we might need more comprehensive solutions.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're right, 100%. Just to be clear, I'm not saying that. I'm just using Bill as an example. of a therapy that's there that just needs the funding to do. Maria Blasco, I'm grateful for what she's doing also. Greg Fahey, Aubrey de Grey, Ray Kurzweil, all these guys. There's many. I'm really grateful for the whole network of doctors and scientists that are working on this. And it is, I don't think, like you're saying, I don't think it's going to be just one therapy that's going to get us where we want to get. It's going to be, possibly a multitude of them. That's the idea, that we're taking this step by step. And as Aubrey de Grey says, we get to the point where we actually reach longevity escape velocity, to where we are de-aging faster than we're aging, where we're youthing faster than we're aging. But I think it's going to take several different, but it would be great, right, to have at least one breakthrough here soon. Okay. And if we get that one breakthrough, that would be, a big one, like a gene therapy that would work, but we don't know totally. It looks like it will work in the lab, but you don't know until you work it on a human being, but it needs money for that. So if that would be one of the breakthroughs, it could open the door for many other breakthroughs, like everything else that happens, right? We create an automobile, all of a sudden we're driving automobiles, and then there's several different kinds of automobiles. And it's the same thing with these innovations. There'll be several different innovations that will benefit us.
Yeah, I'm thinking also about the GLP agonists. I mean, if you see what the how many people are willing to take these drugs, because of course they want to lose their weight, even if they're not diabetic, right? They want to lose some weight, maybe for cosmetic reasons. And so, as soon as you get, I'm pretty certain that as soon as you get something real and tangible when it comes to slowing down aging or reversing aging, I don't think we have to have these tiring debates about how long we should live and if there's meaning in death and so on. Because everyone will want to get it.
100%. Yes, and the thing about it is, I think what everybody needs to understand is that what we need to do is, kind of set the table full and let people choose what they want to choose. If you don't want to live forever, because I get people saying, "Oh, I only want to live to 120 or 150." I said, "Okay, but the possibility of you being able to do that should be available, right? It should be the choice." So I'm an immortalist myself, all right? But that doesn't mean everybody has to be an immortalist. Some people might want to, it's interesting though, like Ray Kurzweil said, people think they want to he'll ask them, how long do you want to live? And they'll say, I want to live to 90. Well, why 90? Because 90, we identify with, okay, we're probably going to be in some decrepit state by 90, so we don't want to live on. But they'll say that until they get 90. And no matter what condition they're in, they want to live longer, unless they're in some real painful condition. But that's the same thing. People will say, oh, I want to live 120, 150, or 200. When they get there, if you get 150, right, you've done something pretty special. You've broken the death barrier. If you get to be 150 in health and vitality, you're going to want to keep living. But, my point, though, is that the choice should just be there. No one should be, it's not imposed that anybody have to live a certain amount of time. So everybody should be open to the possibility, any human being, to live as long as they want to live with vitality. That's the point.
This episode of Levity is brought to you by Vitalism Foundation.
Vitalism Foundation is a non-profit with a revolutionary mission to achieve unlimited lifespans in peak health.
You should really join us. Follow the link in the description below.
It's fascinating though, just how thick this fog of the death program or the pro-death trans, or what you want to call it, this ideology is. That we have to persuade people that it's in their interest to be healthy and alive. It's absolutely it never ceases to just astonish me.
I know. It's almost a comedy of errors, right? It's like, what in the world? And that shows you how deep again. Yeah.
Yeah.
It shows you how deep again that program runs.
Absolutely. I mean, the first reaction you get when you speak with ordinary people about this is some kind of skepticism or hesitancy, or they can't really fathom the concept of living without aging and getting sick. It's very strange. You have to like really work with them, and then they come up with all their reasons. You know, we can't do it because of this or that. It's
that's
incredible.
Right. Yeah. Well, we've built a really strong structure around our deathless beliefs. We've seen nothing but death, right? Everybody dies, so that's kind of, to people, like they immediately say, "Oh, that's proof we have to die because everybody dies." Well, it's really not proof that we have to die. It's just that we do. It's just like we never had automobiles, right? Until we had them, okay? And or did we fly to the moon until we did? But so those concepts were proven after we created them. So, but that's where people get stuck also. That's one of the key things, I think. And so that program goes for, like I said, for thousands of years. So they're indoctrinated. They're just indoctrinated with it. And they're many times, most of the time, just really great people. And sometimes they're really even intelligent people, but that program is so strong. So my job, one of my jobs, and what I do is I try to wake them up to that there's another life to live, okay? That another way of thinking, and there is that immortal. I think there's that immortal potential in everybody. You might even I call it now an immortal lineage. We're born into a world with the lineage of death, okay, the program of death. But we have an opportunity to wake up to that innate desire or seed of life that's in us, okay? And obviously, people, because they've lived so long in that program, it's difficult for them to see that or to experience that, but it is in you. Why, if it wasn't, why has everybody through history, one level or another, wanted to create immortality? Even if it was some imaginary immortality, everyone wants to live, okay? It's almost like a primal scream of life in our bodies. So that's what I'm talking about. It's a seed of life. And if we will wake up to that in our bodies, it will totally change the program, because that's what I've experienced myself, a waking up to that seed. I think I had that early experience I did as a kid because I had that in me, and we all do. Some people have it more suppressed than others, obviously, but like for us, for example, it's pretty much to the surface because we're talking this right now, right? but yeah, I think the seed of life is in us, and it's a primal scream that's always been there for life. And if people, I move now to try to move. I've been doing this, and it's been very effective to wake people up to that. No matter how you resist it now, I tell them, no matter what you think, this is in you, okay? And it's important you get in touch with it. Do you really, if you can have strength and vitality for unlimited amounts of time, would you want that? Okay, most everybody will say yes, but they still don't think it's possible, but they'll say yes to that. So then I'll say, okay, since you feel that in your body, why not begin to entertain that idea that and begin to get in touch with that seed of life that's already in you, and then begin to see how you feel with that and open yourself up to that. And many times that causes people to, in my experience lately, to actually begin to reflect on themselves and begin to get in touch more with that cry on them to live, to be alive. So there's a lot in it, but it's pretty exciting.
Can I ask you, this got me thinking about Ray Kurzweil, because you can also change your horizon when you think about this. So you could ask yourself, do I want to live until tomorrow? And I think it was Ray Kurzweil who said that. He asks himself, do I want to live tomorrow? And so far the answer has been yes. And speaking of Ray Kurzweil, I think he has been a speaker at RAADfest, or at least been there in some form. Yeah. So, and the thing about him is that he's saying that we're going to reach longevity escape velocity in 2029, which I still think sounds ludicrous. I think that's way too soon, right? But then again, he also has some pretty good projections, I feel now, for the way things are moving with artificial intelligence. And there I'm not at all so certain that he's wrong anymore. I thought he was too optimistic just 10 years ago, but now maybe he's too conservative, right? And so I feel like I don't really know how to think about this anymore, because if what he says is true, that we might reach artificial general intelligence in 2029, the same year that we will reach longevity escape velocity, I'm not sure how to think about it, because if we do, we might solve scientific problems exponentially faster than we can right now. So, yeah, that's not really a question, but just me thinking out loud.
No, it's a very good thought. Thank you. Yeah, I agree 100%. It seemed to me too, his first book, before this one, I mean, if the singularity is near, now, like he says in the beginning of this new book, Singularity Near, he says he thought that the things are even moving faster than he thought. Okay, yeah. So that's why he wrote, okay, I read 2030, but it might be 2930, but that AI will merge with the human body fundamentally. And so this new era of immortality will be here. But interesting enough, I did a talk recently in San Diego at this American Law Institute, because they wanted to know. They invited me there to speak with 25 lawyers, okay, and they wanted some of the top longevity enthusiasts there to basically convince them that and this is the American Law Institute, which is the oldest institute in the country. Okay, I was happy to see they were interested in, but they wanted to see if to have us convince them if super longevity was really real, because if it is, they want to prepare their future law, and laws for that, okay? Because they're going to change, they said. So they had me, George Church, Dr. Michael Rose, and a woman from, I can't remember her last name, but her name is Brenda. She runs a longevity clinic organization in Africa. So we're there with these 25 lawyers, talking to them about everything, and moving to show them that this is real, and very interesting discussion. But in this discussion, we had George Church was on, and he came in virtually. He doesn't travel much, and so he came in virtually. And so I asked George, okay, because we were interacting all of us together. I said, George, do you think Ray Kurzweil's prediction is right, and that in 2030 we'll be merging, with AI? And he said, I really respect, Ray Kurzweil. Most of the predictions are right, but I have to actually say, I think we're there now. This is what George Church said. So anyway, that stunned, all these lawyers, of course, right? Like, we're there now, and I thought it was awesome. And the reality is we are, okay, that we don't totally recognize it, all right? Because this thing is, I'll use the term, it's punching through, okay? You can feel it. There's a new energy punching through. I'm getting people interested now. I mean, soon we will be announcing this, that I never thought would be in this world yet at this time, interested, that are contacting me now. And there's unfortunately, I can't even say so some of these people are right now until some of this is consummated, but it will be soon. Now, I'll let you guys know some of the first people. But it's exciting because this could really speed up things even faster. So this is going faster than we even think in our conscious minds, okay? And I think that's what Kurzweil has the ability to conceive these things that way. And yeah, I sense that by this time, if we're already in this era. In fact, I was saying this before I heard this from Church, so it was great to hear it from him. I was saying, look, we're already in this era, all right? And no matter how things are looking on one level, okay, there's other underneath all that. There's a new energy moving to make this happen, and there's a lot of people involved in this, and there's some people that have huge influence now that are beginning to wake up to this. So that's exciting, and that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Kurzweil's basic point about how we fail to see the exponential development, and we think of development and progress as linear, makes us unable to see what's maybe closer than we expect. But he also makes the point that it's easy for us to imagine the future and the challenges we see in the future, while assuming that we don't have any new tools, that we have the same toolbox that we have today for those foreseen problems in the future. And I think that's also very important, especially when we talk about people.
Right.
A lot of people are just really worried about the social consequences of superlongevity. But a lot of that is exactly because they think that in the future we have solved aging, but we have just the same old toolbox for every other problem, which is I mean, it must be a false assumption, I think. And that wasn't the question either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow, this is great. No, this is a great, but it's a great conversation. We're in a great conversation here because, look, these people, I understand. People could be worried about the social consequences. We're already in bad social consequences. We are socially bankrupt. Okay, we are soulfully bankrupt in this world. We have to do something different. The future lies in superlongevity, because it's going to create a value of human life, no matter how we analyze it. And this is the problem sometimes. It's like the old story of the dad, taking his kid and pointing at the moon, and saying, "Look, there's the moon," and the kid's looking at the finger, thinking that's the moon, right? And so it's the same thing with people. They're missing the point. Okay, that could take us to a whole different place, and we'll be able to solve these issues more intelligently. We'll have the incentive to do them because we're not just dying and passing through here. We're investing ourselves. We'll invest ourselves deeper, because life extension will bring about a greater value of human life that's ever been. So we're going to solve problems. I use the analogy a lot. Like, you go to a hotel room, and you don't really clean it up all the way when you leave, because you're just passing through. And that's the way it is with people in this world. They're just passing through, and they find their immortality in all kinds of imaginary immortalities. And they're just passing through, so they don't really clean up the mess.
So let's say it doesn't happen fast enough for you, James, to benefit. I know that you're in Scottsdale, Arizona now, so I'm thinking immediately of Alcor. Are you planning on do you have a cryonics contract ready?
Yes, I'm actually working on that right now. As you may have known, my business partner, Bernadine Brown, passed away June 6th. We cryonically preserved her at CI in Michigan, and I'll if I didn't, as you use the term, make it, I would do the same thing. Yes, I'm actually working on that contract now.
But you being in Scottsdale has that anything to do with Alcor? Or is it just a coincidence?
Oh no, yeah, it's just a coincidence. I just prefer the Michigan Institute for different reasons. I think it's all a matter of preference. Even though Alcor is close here, I just a matter of preference at this point for me. Different reasons, economically also. The institute, Chronic Institute in Michigan, is they do only whole body preservations, and that's what I would want, and they're considerably less expensive at this point, but and they do a good job. So that was recommended. They were recommended to me from Life Extension for Bernie, and yeah. So if I needed that, that's what I'm signed up for. If I needed that, that's what I would do. Of cryonics, right? It's an ambulance to the future, right?
Yeah.
So with the idea, and I love the whole. I've loved the science from the beginning. You know, I think it's courageous and bold. You know, and it's more real than anything else. I mean, to think that we could be buried in the ground and be rejuvenated out of the ground and dust. I mean, and then people have a hard time believing in us create a world without death. I mean, you can show the parallel between, you know, the really ridiculous ideas that we create as human beings, you know, and thoughts sometimes because we want to live and we create these ideas to make death more palatable or acceptable. Yes.
So I want you to say a little bit more because you mentioned the concept of imaginary immortality.
Well, imaginary immortality to me is like when you know, like I say, it's innate in all of us to want to live. You've seen that down through history. You know, the pharaohs of Egypt bury themselves with all their goods and their armies for the next life. You know, we've continued these patterns, and you know, to me, and not being saying they're wrong or bad or anything, but to me, they're imaginary immortalities. You know, like making a lot of money. You know, and trying to leave a legacy of yourself that would live on is imaginary immortality. You know, thinking that there's an afterlife somewhere. And I'm not saying that's again wrong or right, but to me, that's imaginary immortality. You know, we create and I understand why we do it. It creates the coping mechanisms, because death is so horrible. And we don't want to think that we just turn to nothing, right? So we try to create, you know. But if you look down through history, every you know, nationality, every ethnic group, you know, has their own different ways of projecting their afterlives. You know, the Vikings, you know, had the experience of this afterlife they would go to, and it was so indicative of their daily lives. Their afterlife was all about fighting in the afterlife. They could war all day, be reborn, and war again the next day. Sorry, it's funny, you know.
By the way, the imaginary immortality. I think Woody Allen has said it best. That
exactly.
I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve it by not dying.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. 100%. So we've created so many of those, right? And so, yeah, I meet people every day, and that's the challenge a lot of times, because they're so ingrained and been programmed that death is like this beautiful passage unto another life. Mm. So they've so embraced it and found a certain comfort in it that it's difficult to break through that, you know, because they see death as something beautiful rather than what it is. There's nothing beautiful about death when you really look at it. But when you're asleep, you try to make it good, you know, and there's nothing good about it. It has, you know, to see somebody you love deteriorate and fall apart, and, you know, what's beautiful about it? Nothing.
On that note too, so it's not just a religious resistance to this idea, but a lot of completely secular people would say the immortal lineage, well, that's your children, and then the best thing you can do for your children is to die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how I mean, again, I don't criticize these people, but if you really look at it, you know, how terrible is that? I mean, don't we want our children to live? I mean, don't we want to give them example? If we embrace dying, don't you think they are? Don't we want to be a different generation that takes, if nothing else, takes a stand against aging and death? So we can send that message to our children that the greatest thing to be is alive. They're going to have much more fruitful lives, even if they don't make it. You know, I tell people, even if you don't make it, your life is going to be much more fruitful, less fearful, less terrorized by embracing, you know, that human potential of being able to live forever and go for it. Don't go, as Dylan Thomas said, don't go quietly into the night. Fight, fight, fight with all your might. You know?
So, what do you say to people who call this selfish?
I say it's selfish to die. To die on people that love you and the pain they go through. And what they, I know that the people that love me, it would be terrible for them, just like it would be terrible for me, for them to die. I think it's a very, I think it's in reverse. I mean, look, some of these people say, oh, we're going to be using up resources. If we end this aging and death, which we will, okay, we're going to be again so invested in creating what I call heaven here on earth. Is where it should be, That's the real heaven. Hell is already here on earth. Okay. You're born into hell. It's hell to be born into a world that's so beautiful. And then pretty soon you have to face that illnesses and sicknesses and you see loved one die. That's hell. Okay. We need to create heaven here on earth. And that's what will happen in our being able to break through this death barrier. Because then, like I said, we're going to create a value of human life that's never been seen before, and a value of each other. And we're going to have a communion with each other, not just conversations. We're going to have a communion. We don't even know who we are as human beings at this time because we're so traumatized by death and have such limited time here. So we're going to understand more what we're about. We're going to have a greater respect for ourselves and one another. That's already happening. Since I've awakened to immortality, and especially since I've had the experience I had 2 years ago of the immortal lineage, I have a greater respect for myself and other human beings than I've ever had. It's a feeling that, I want everybody alive, and it's a feeling for humanity that's never been before. And so I'm so grateful for that. But that's what will come about. We're going to create a world. We're going to create heaven here on earth.
People with, let's say, 100 years or 200 years of experience in science or in the arts. I mean, what we could do, and also so many sides of ourselves we could develop. I mean, we could be so interesting to each other.
That's right.
And to ourselves in a way that now we're so
100%.
limited. No, we are forced to be very specialized in this world.
That's right. Yeah, even in this conversation, we're connecting in a way most human beings don't connect, right? We're connecting with, an insight and a conversation that most people aren't in. That's a beautiful thing in itself. But just imagine how that can grow, and develop. And, who knows? I mean, we'll be using all of our faculties, possibly, just being able to understand each other intuitively in a way we never have.
Is that part of the immortality mindset that you don't stop growing and you don't stop being curious? And
Exactly. Yeah, I wake up and now a lot of times in my expressions, I'm going like, wow, like when you're a kid, and everything wows you. And then later on, we lose that wow effect because we get so burdened with life, the burden of it. And now I'm having these wow, feelings again that are great because I'm feeling and seeing wondrous things. And I think that's part of the freshness of youthfulness, right?
Tell me if this is too personal, and we'll edit it out later, and you don't have to answer it, of course. But so you mentioned that your friend Bernadine died earlier this year.
Right.
What was that like for her, if to face this? We all have to face it as it is right now, but I guess not that many people meet death with that mindset. We're still in the minority here. So
yes, that's right. That's right.
I guess I always been wondering, how am I going to, if I get to that day, how will I feel about it? What was she hopeful that cryonics would work for her? How was that like? And how was it like for you?
Okay, so it was very, very difficult. Okay. I'm just thankful that which maybe I'll talk a little bit about here if you want me to. A couple years ago, before her death, I had an experience that gave me a new strength and resilience. I was actually wanting that. I could see that the longevity, the super longevity movement was going to take a lot more energy and strength than we all realize. It had to take something almost supernatural. And I had a supernatural experience, I'd call it, which I'll tell you about in a moment if you want me to. But first of all, to answer your question, Ben, so I had this experience, fortunately, before Bernie began to go down with cancer. And so I'm grateful for that, because I don't know if I could have totally handled it. It was very, very difficult. She was amazing through it, actually. She fought really hard. She was diagnosed in 2014 with breast cancer. And for the first 9 years, 8.5, 9 years, she was always up, never down with it, feeling good, traveling, doing everything, very alive. It was only after she got, when the COVID hit, and she actually got COVID, lost her taste, okay? And then the treatments weren't working as good because she had a lot of inflammation in her body, so she couldn't eat very well, so she began to lose a lot of weight. And then she began to realize that, she was losing herself, and she would talk about it. And she would never say, she never gave up. She never said, I'm going to die or I want to die. She was afraid at times that would be the case, but she kept her spirit up, right to the end. And it was very real for her. She was so surrounded with love at the same time. We kept her right here in the home. We so surrounded her with love that I know she felt, because she said she did, really held and really kept during that time, and that we were going to do, no matter what, the right thing for her that we could do. So that was a comfort for her. So, but still, to see somebody of her spirit, I mean, I never met anybody that wanted to live as much as she did. Okay. I'm sure there are, but she had this joy of life and so to see her lose her life that way was so sad for all of us. But after it did happen, hold on one second. I'm just, okay. After it did happen, we of course had to face that. And, because when she lost her taste and started losing weight bad, she actually we were making progress with the cancer. We were doing some very advanced cancer treatment with her. But then she got an infection, okay, from being in bed so much. And the infection went septic. And that's really what she died of in the hospital. We had to take her to the hospital. Mm-hmm. Then she had a cardiac arrest from that. And that's where we lost her, And then the cryonics crew came into the hospital and began. Fortunately, she got the cryonics preservation done right in the field, which really gave her a great preservation. And then we flew her to be preserved in Michigan. So, but bottom answer again to your question is, yeah, it was a very difficult time, and yet she was very. She was hardly in any. She had osteoporosis, so she had some back pain, but towards the end, she was in very little pain. Every time I'd ask her, she said, "No, she wasn't in pain." We had good medication for her, but not something that would knock her out per se. She could talk and she could. Of course, the last few days she didn't talk at all, hardly. She just motioned. But I think that, like you're saying, how would you be during that time? None of us ever know, right? How we'll face something in that. But I think, I do know that she realized then at the end that she wasn't going to make it, and but she felt all of our love with her, and she was at rest. Okay, there wasn't any. She didn't project any anxiety or anything like that. Maybe because we could say, well, maybe because she could feel us so much that she was also maybe protective of us a little bit and how deeply we felt in losing her. But there's no easy. It's never easy. You can't make it easy. because it isn't easy. And that's why we're doing what we're doing, right? And I know that she would want me and all of us to go on in what we're doing because that's what her life was. And so to me, putting her in cryonics, okay, suspending her chronically is like, still, we moved for her all the way then when she was alive. Now we're moving for her all the way now. I'm hoping to see her in the future. And there's a good chance of it, as we progress here. So we continue to move for her. and I feel like that was her state of mind too in that level.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for asking. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you mentioned something about supernaturalistic experience
that
made it easier to handle.
Yeah, let me say this because I think it's so important, and I'll try to make it brief. I know we're running out of time, so 2 years ago, after the pandemic, okay, and going through a lot. Still, Brittany she was at the RAADfest that year, and she was doing pretty well, but starting to have a bit of a rough time. And then, of course, seeing friends and the world suffer the way we did, had to look at that in this pandemic, seeing the condition of the world with the strife, etc. I begin to think, oh, wow, it's a lot. It's a lot to handle. And I begin to question myself, do I have the strength, to really go the distance? And so I also saw a lot of people, or heard a lot of people in the super longevity community begin to feel like, just like you mentioned about Mark Hammond, doubting whether it would be able to, create a innovation that would keep us all alive. Would it be the next generation, that would have to look toward, doubts started to come up in people's minds. I think a lot because of the pandemic and everything that happened. They began to see too much, right? And things weren't moving as quickly as it appeared. So I started thinking, oh, there's got to be something more. There's got to be something more. I need something supernatural to feel. And I didn't know how that would come. Okay, so this might sound a little strange in one level, but it was so real. So I decided one day I was having this constant, I'll say, I use the word travail or concerned about this concern, and so I wanted a little rest. Want to rest my mind some. So I said, I'm going to watch a movie tonight. So I went on Netflix and I started flicking through it, and I found this series called Chosen. All right, and then I saw it was a story about Jesus, and I thought, oh, I don't want to watch this. It's some more religious propaganda, and so forth. And but then I started reading about it, and it was supposed to be exact historical account of him. So I thought, okay, that might be interesting. I like history, so I'll start watching it. And I also noticed that I started watching it was very well done, really well done. But that wasn't the main point of it. When the actor came on who was playing Jesus, okay, started talking, all right, and saying Jesus's words, I felt something penetrate me in my body. I'm going, oh my God, what's that? Some new energy, something really like, I'm laying there. It almost took me back in my pillow. I was actually laying back in my pillow, and I went like this, like, what is that? And so I thought, okay, that felt good. I felt at the same time when I heard that those words, a certain amount of stress that I was carrying left my body. And I thought, well, that feels good, but probably just temporary. I'll feel this for a few hours, or wake up in the morning and I'll be back to the same position, right? So the short story of it is that I kept watching that, and I was just interested because I wanted to hear these words he was saying. And they were words like, eat of my flesh, drink of my blood, you shall live forever. So I began to see that he was speaking. And so be real clear, I'm talking about, in my interpretation, this man, not the religious definition of Jesus that religion hijacked. They hijacked who he really was, okay? But this man, like you and I, okay, who was speaking these profound words of life, right? And to me, he was speaking words of immortality. Eat of my flesh, drink of my blood, you shall have everlasting life. All these things, not very physical. So when I woke up in the morning, I was feeling better than ever. I was thinking, oh, wow, all that, the burden that I had been carrying on me had passed away. But I again thought, oh, this is going to maybe last for the day. Maybe it's going to go away after a while, like experiences do. but it didn't. It just got stronger through the day in me. And every day, and so to make the story short, every day it's got stronger in me, okay? I went to People Unlimited. I started expressing about this. And what I discovered in it for me, okay, is that, and when I spoke to certain scientists like Michael Rose and so forth, they kind of verified this, that in us is this immortal lineage. And what Jesus did, okay, this man, not the religious figure, because I'm not religious. I'm an immortalist. I'm not religious. What Jesus did was he was like the Roger Bannister, okay, who broke the 4-minute mile, and then everybody did afterwards. Jesus was the Roger Bannister of immortality. He broke through. Yeah, he broke through, okay? He was the first to actually speak it. That's really what got him into hot water, all right? It was his life. His life was really what we should be, adhering to. People should really be acknowledging, not his death, not his sacrifice. He said, I didn't come to speak. I came to end sacrifice. And yet they turned around and sacrificed him, made a reason to do it. But it was his life that was so powerful. And so that's what penetrated me. It quickened me, you might say, this immortal lineage in me that he was, okay? And I knew then, as time went on, that I needed to move. And that's what Jesus also spoke about, that we would do greater works, okay? And so I know I needed to also move to quicken other people in this. So I began to speak to people, unlimited people, about it. At first, it was like they didn't understand it because they thought, many of them had come already out of religious backgrounds. And they said, are you trying to take us back to a religious Jesus? And I said, no, I'm not talking about the religious Jesus at all. And so the more I did, though, it was unstoppable, just like now. I mean, I've expressed this at RAADfest. I'm having sessions on it. And it's quickening people to this immortal lineage that's already in us, okay? And that's what I think is so vital. It took me from one program over here that I was carrying all my life to over here, a different program. Now it's like the only way I know to say is like I'm walking on water. I'm not looking at the troubled waters anymore. I'm looking at the future. I'm looking at the bright future we have. I'm in a different world. And that's what it did. It took me into a different world. Now, maybe it's the world that Jesus spoke about too, of the kingdom. He said, I'm here to bring kingdom on earth. He said, not out here somewhere. And so I think this is the kingdom, okay? But we're exploring, right? So I'm sharing this with you now because it's all part of the exploration. But I do feel very strongly that they quickened this immortal lineage in me, and that's what we do for each other. We're quickening this immortal lineage. And that gives us the platform, the strength, and the resilience to walk this path and be alive and help create these therapies and new innovations that are coming up, and do it with the strength and passion that we should be doing it with. So that's my experience. And had I had this experience, I don't think I could have personally been able to endure the situation with Bernie, much less see all the other things that we face in this world.
I know what I'm watching on Netflix tonight.
That's great. Yeah. You might sometimes they play it on Amazon. So between Amazon and Netflix, depending where you find it. So, yeah.
So,
well, you guys are great. I'm so happy I had this time with you. Is there anything else you wanted to?
Yeah, I mean, perhaps if two things. One, if you can give some advice to the listeners, a couple of good things to do in their life to keep themselves in the immortality body and mind set, and also tell us a little bit about how they can be in touch with what you do. Yes.
Okay. So if you want to be in touch with People Unlimited, you go to www.peopleunlimitedinc.com. Okay, that's www.peopleunlimitedinc.com. You can actually, which I invite you guys, stream in to our events live if you want to. Okay, the schedule is on the website. All right, and it's complimentary, and we'd love to have you come on anytime you feel it. You can actually interact with us. We have a great system where you can also speak if you want to, or just listen. Whatever you want to do. We welcome any comments or interaction. And you can also contact us. You can email me at jrstrole@gmail.com. If you have any comments or questions you'd like to ask me, that's jrstrole@gmail.com. All right. And be at RAADfest. that's you look up RAADfest. That's www.raadfest RAADFEST radfest.com. That's the biggest event on super longevity in the world, and it's going to be in Vegas next year in July. It's going to be a magnificent time. I do so people know. Okay, don't just sitting is the new smoking, right? Okay, so one of the biggest things you do, you don't have to. I think this is important to say. People think they have to, pound their bodies and do all kinds of real strenuous workouts to be healthy. Really, that's not a longevity move necessarily. Working out too hard or too strong in your body can actually create injuries, can actually create too much stress in your body. Just do good workouts. That doesn't mean if you're professional athlete, you're going to upscale that, of course. But normally, just to do things that walking, swimming, bike riding, getting up every once in a while. I actually sat a little bit too long here today, but I got interested in talking to you guys. But I usually stand up every half hour, and walk around a little bit. I wake up in the morning, open my arms to the sun, give thanks. I do stretches, moving your body, but moving in a rhythm, not trying to lift too heavy of weights. I do weight resistance too, but not too heavy because again, it puts too much stress in your bones and your tissue. You don't want to wear them out. Your body can regenerate all the time if you're not burning it out faster than you're regenerating it. That's really important. And I do blood tests. My doctor just recently told me that I have some of the best blood tests he's seen for a while. Because I test myself, I do supplements based on that blood test. I don't just throw everything into me. That's important. There are new things like, NAD, senolytics, all these kind of things that are really beneficial for the body. One of the biggest things I've done recently is therapeutic plasma exchange, which actually purified my blood and replaced my new plasma in me. And I'm still feeling the great benefits of that. So all these innovations are great, but they're all out there to do. But that mindset, like I said, back to that mindset and connecting this immortal lineage in you is so vital to give you that strength and resilience and clarity to do the things you need to do.
Thank you so much. Those were some great advice.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. You guys are super.
Well, we are very honored to have you on our podcast here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been great.